Welcome to the Vets Connect podcast with your host, Scott McLean.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott McLean. My guest today is John Schrey. John's with Haven for Heroes in West Palm Beach, Florida. Now, Haven for Heroes isn't a nonprofit, but they help veterans. And I talked to John, and we had a good conversation. John has a very interesting story to tell. So with that, how you doing today, John?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, my pleasure, buddy. My pleasure. So tell me a little about yourself.
I've spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, hence why I work with veterans now. Did 8 years in the Marine Corps, 2 tours to Afghanistan. Injured in Afghanistan. I'm 100% disabled. So I like to say, I check all the boxes. I'm in recovery. So it's a no-brainer why I work in this field, in this industry, with these type of clients.
What kind of clients do you work with? Yeah,
veterans specifically. Not to say that I also work a 12-step fellowship, so I'm involved in recovery on all different levels. But I found, I don't want to say the most gratifying, because really anyone I can help, anyone in recovery, it's all the same to me. But the story that my story, it really resonates with veterans because I'm a veteran, and I found that. And I don't know how, not to get too into it, but there's not too many of us. There's not too many veterans who have been to combat, who have been homeless, who have, again, checked all those boxes and actually been able to recover. So I found that my story it's not that unique, except for the fact that I've recovered and I'm still alive, for that matter, because I know far more guys like myself who have died, fighting this. Either PTSD or substance abuse, than are alive and doing well.
You mentioned homelessness. Was that you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For good 3-4 years. I got out of the Marine Corps the end of 2014. I'll go back a little bit. I came back from Afghanistan, my second deployment, 2010. I had been involved in a couple IED blasts. I have all my limbs. I like to always say that, especially on the podcast where people can't see you, because that's usually what you see, if you lost a limb or anything. But what happened to me was I got concussions. On my second concussion, I was medevaced because of how close the concussions were to each other, and it was dangerous to be involved in the third one. So I got medevaced. When I came back from Afghanistan, I finished my deployment and I was non-deployable, and that's when life kind of took a turn. I had a beautiful wife, baby on the way. And I spent my second 4 years at Parris Island because I was non-deployable, and life kind of slowed down when you're not getting ramped up for deployments and shit like that. And so what I didn't realize, and I'm big on purpose, at this point, now that I'm in recovery, hope and purpose are two things that I kind of hang my hat on. And the Marine Corps gave me purpose for a long time. When I lost that purpose, like when they told me I couldn't deploy anymore, it really took my drinking picked up, pills started, they started putting me on all kinds of medication. And so while I was in the Marine Corps, I was a full-blown alcoholic drug addict for the end of my second 4 years. By the grace of God, I was given an honorable discharge after being put in a PTSD facility for a month while I was in the Marine Corps. And got out of that facility, went right back to it. Didn't really, it didn't stick. I wasn't really willing to do any work on the things that were, going on. So as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, within 6 months, I was back in treatment. I had a newborn at that point. I had my beautiful wife, had a beautiful house, everything you think you need. Everything looked great from the outside. And I was dead. I was dying inside. That beautiful house was the most uncomfortable place in the world for me to be, because it was so calm and my mind was the exact opposite. And so, after that first time in treatment, 2 months later, I ended up homeless on the street. So I spent 3-4 years homeless. I figured that it was better for me to separate myself from my family than to be with my family. I was causing nothing but wreckage. I was strung out on drugs. I could not go a minute without some sort of substance in my body. I would have to go, in order to go home and hold my baby girl, I would have to be intoxicated on something. And the street was a perfect kind of the exact opposite of that. The street was where I could actually like kind of like that life and death was kind of there. Those kind of like those risk taking, things that would make me feel alive. They were prevalent all over. So it really worked out for where I was in my head, in my mind, my sick, twisted mind. I thought it was better to be on the street than, in my house.
So your time homeless led you to eventually say, I need to change this shit. How did you do that? How did that transition go?
Yeah, so it's funny. It took a lot. Okay. The VA, and I work closely with VAs now. The VA would put me in different treatment centers. I would be in the VA in West Palm Beach, probably, double digit amount of times in the psychiatric facility on 3C. And I would get out of there and I would go right back to it. For me, what it took, and this is the brutal honesty, and some people probably when drugs and alcohol stopped working, the substances were really keeping my mind at bay. I really believe that I probably would have taken my life as some of my best friends have, without those substances to numb out and to quiet what was going on inside. And without sharing the details, there was a point in my life I was sitting in a abandoned apartment, no running water, no nothing. And I had I like to say a spiritual awakening due to the fellowship that I follow, but I had this realization that drugs and alcohol was no longer an option, that it was no longer going to make me feel okay, that it was no longer going to do what it had been doing for a long time. And that was it. I reached out for help. I got into a little nonprofit facility, and I started, working steps. A little place, it was in Texas. It was called Solstice Recovery. It's no longer even there anymore because it was a nonprofit. They weren't able to keep the funding through COVID. I'm still very close with the owners. He's like a big brother to me. Along the time, I lost my big brother to drugs and alcohol as well. So it was kind of this guy, he's like my big brother. And it was kind of like a year after my brother died, I met this gentleman and his wife, and they put me in their facility. And that's where the journey really began. And I really found that purpose that I had lacked for so long. I found it in recovery, which brings us full circle to why I started on this journey, as we said before, in recovery and helping guys like me.
How did you end up at Haven for Heroes?
So I ended up at Haven for Heroes. I've worked at a few different facilities since I got sober, which I've been sober like just over 5 years, which is amazing. It still blows my mind when I say it. So I always pause. I kind of can't wrap my head around what I just said, But I started working just regular, like a BHT, like an overnight tech. And I just kind of worked my way up, started to kind of understand that, again, as a sober veteran, combat veteran, ex-homeless veteran, that there was a place in the job, that there was a place for me finally. After all this, just, thinking I'm this piece of shit, that I have nothing to offer. I started to realize that there's actually, not only is there a place for me in the job market, if you will, but there's a need for guys like us that are in recovery. And so I worked my way up, and Haven was always, I'm from South Florida. They were always kind of on my radar for the work they did. And, the things just matched up, it just lined up. They were, we have a mutual friend of the owner. I liked the idea of how they operate, that they have a facility that's strictly for veterans down here in South Florida. And I like the idea that it's one owner. Again, I'm not here to bash anyone else, but a lot of what recovery has become is like this, Amazon. Like people want to be the Amazon of recovery. People want to, I can't think of the term, but like hedge funds are getting involved and all this other bullshit. This is one owner.
They want to make it a corporation.
Right. Yeah. They want to blow up.
Yeah.
And this is one owner who spoke to me personally and who I built a relationship with. And everything just lined up, and it's just been a great place. I'm just very proud of what we do. That's why I'm able to do podcasts and actually mention it. You know what I mean? And not just kind of go go over it.
What's the history of Haven for Heroes?
Yeah, so about 8 years ago, Haven, they got involved first, I think, with the TRICARE. They had a TRICARE policy. They were able to take active duty military and with the TRICARE insurance. And from there, the VA kind of opened their community care network, the CCN network, which is when the VA is getting inundated, they're able to refer clients out. And they kind of got involved in that. And it's very close to the West Palm Beach VA, and they started building it out. And they started, the owner saw that there was a need for it, and just he made a decision to take this new building, the new residential building that they had built, and make it a veteran-only programming. And we named it Haven for Heroes.
This is a big facility.
It's pretty sweet.
It really is.
I haven't shown you the barber shop yet.
Well, it's a pretty nice facility. So, how long have you been with Haven for Heroes?
So I've only been with Haven for Heroes a couple months now. Like I said, I was working for some other facilities, doing some other things, and full transparency, about a year ago, I got a little, I don't know the right term to say, not jaded, but it got a little dark for me working with the VA and community care. Again, the VA saved my life on numerous occasions. I'm not here to there are the most amazing people at the VA. But this system, and I think we can all agree, and they would agree, is a broken system. And I was noticing veterans kind of falling through the cracks too much. And I was seeing it from the other side of where, when I was homeless on the streets, I couldn't get what I was looking for. And the truth of the matter is, if I had knocked on the right doors, I could have got the help I needed when I needed it, but I didn't know. And that's the problem, right? When we're drug addicts and alcoholics, we're looking for an excuse to turn around and go back to the drugs and alcohol. So if I knock on the door, you answer, you say, sorry, I can't help you. Oh, sweet. Now I can go back and shoot heroin, and so that started to eat at me a little bit. And spiritually, so I took a break from it for the last year until I came over back to Haven or I came on to Haven. And because I realized, again, my story is unique. And it needs to be there's no reason, I have to help whoever I can, and some people, I can't help everybody, but that's all, I'm not, who am I, God, so it's whatever I could do to help. And this is the best place I found to do it.
It's giving back, right?
For sure.
Yeah. What's your job title here? What do you do at Haven for Heroes?
So my job title is National Director of Military Affairs. So that encompasses, we also have Haven for Heroes in Arkansas, Indiana, on Cape Cod, and then here in Florida. So my job is to not only get the word out about what we offer, but to kind of bring cohesiveness to the team, to the programs. Because again, when you're dealing with these different states, and as you may know, all VAs are different. So there's not a one, and with veterans too, it's not a one size fits all. So it's about kind of seeing what works best with all of us and bringing that together to, bring cohesiveness and just bring some, I don't know what the word is, but not solidarity, but make everything kind of
connections,
yeah.
Do you ever work with nonprofits? Do you ever have relationships with nonprofits, with your patients or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. So as I kind of mentioned to you, before this, I do probably 3-4, maybe more Zooms a day, or conversations a day with different nonprofits around the country. We're big on now, obviously, we're getting veterans from different states, right? So they can't continue in our care forever, obviously. And we don't know what's going to happen when they get back to the VA. So we find that nonprofits are the best place to, if we can have a nonprofit in your area, when you go back, say you go back to Georgia and we get you involved with the farm, one of the farms that we deal with, and we're able to connect you with them, and you're able to get a fellowship. Because again, I am a 12-step guy, and I don't care if anyone works 12 steps or not. It's not my decision to make, but I think everyone needs fellowship. I think one of the big things that I lacked when I left the Marine Corps was fellowship. Didn't call it fellowship, right? Called it the Marine Corps. And I think that nonprofits bring that. Nonprofits are always, it's always a fellowship. It's always a group of people trying to help, and like-minded people. And definitely we're all about facilitating that relationship between veterans and the nonprofits. I know you're a part of one. Herd
Foundation.
Herd Foundation is a great one.
Herd Foundation.
Yeah, I think they're very cool.
We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm always pushing the herd.
Definitely.
They do great work, and I'm proof positive of that.
I will mention one thing, one place. And I don't know if it's a nonprofit or what he would consider it, but it's called Project Rebirth. And what it is for lack of a better term, conglomerate of peer support specialists. I myself am a certified peer support specialist as well. But it's a really cool organization that's, really gaining steam nationally as well. And it's based on peer support, just what it sounds like. But certified, going through the correct channels and getting the certifications and actually getting the licensing, which comes with hours and actual engaging in the community. You can't just go online and get it. You have to put in the work. But I think that, again, that's that peer-to-peer thing that therapists are great. I have a great therapist at the VA in Albany, a great therapist. And I think they definitely have their part, but I think it's like you need every piece of the puzzle. And I think one thing that was lacking is that peer-to-peer. It also gives people that are maybe earlier in recovery that haven't really found a way to give back where they can help someone that's behind them. Again, it's based on what they do in 12-step fellowship, right? It's like one alcoholic helping the other, one peer helping the other. If I've been, say it's just PTSD, not substance abuse, and it's been a year since I've had maybe a suicide attempt. There's somebody who may have had a suicide attempt a couple days ago, and they need to hear from me, who can actually look them in the eye and say, I've had, not me, but a peer like myself who'd had a suicide attempt and survived it, and where they're at now a year later. And I think there's so much value in that,
It's someone that's walked in their shoes, or they're walking in that person's shoes.
Correct.
Absolutely. I always say, I'm 32 years sober, so I always say, you'll get there.
It's awesome.
You'll get there. One day at a time, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
But I tell people, and it's the same thing with PTSD or whatever you're going through, you have to be able to talk to someone that can relate to you. Like another alcoholic is really the only person I could talk to about my alcoholism.
Right.
Definitely. How many people have we talked to? How many people have you talked to that they mean well?
Right.
They mean well, but they don't get it.
No.
They really, and so that is important. The peer-to-peer, it's very important, especially with veterans.
Yep. Oh, definitely. And I think there's a part of that with veterans where they're almost not even open to hearing anything. We come from a place, and I'll say Marines specifically, who I'll never fucking show, excuse me if I curse, I'll never show you weakness. I've been taught not to. In fact, it is a strength of mine to not show weakness because the enemy will take advantage of that, right? We're going to attack at the softest, at the belly of the vehicle. We're going to attack you at your weakest point. So if you show weakness, and that's what we're taught from boot camp on, right? And so when we come into recovery, or we need recovery, and I can't, like you as a man across from me, like I can never show you weakness. But what happens is, that's no longer true, right? That's no longer, those rules of war and those rules that we've lived by, that code of being a man that we've probably been taught since we were little, forget about the Marine Corps, those are no longer applicable, right? Because now I need to get vulnerable. And not only that, I know that you and I as men standing across from each other, when you're able to get vulnerable with me, that's the strongest thing I've ever seen. I've seen guys run into gunfire. The strength that it takes to do that is the same strength that it takes for me to break down and say, my brother, I need help. I don't know what to do, and to share about some of the things that I did to my family, to my little daughter. That takes a lot, and I think that's one of the narratives that you can only hear from someone else who's been through it, to be able to get vulnerable. Because I have Marines that know what I've done, and they know what a fucking lunatic I was. And they know that I was, looked at as one of the tough guys. And now I'm able to cry in front of you. Come on, man. There's some serious value in that and some power in that.
Absolutely. How can someone get in touch with you? So you sound like a pretty open guy that you really want to help people. And if somebody's listening, is that too much to ask that you kind of say, hey, if you need to get in touch with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an open book. I'll give you my personal number. Here's the thing: we know. Speaking we as in the company, as in Haven, we know we can't help everybody. But with the nonprofits that we have relationships with situations like this, where I know you and the Herd Foundation, for instance, all these different organizations that I've been introduced to, I can give you my word that if you call, I'll answer. And sometimes that's it, right? Like, back to what I was saying about Marines. Like, if there's one thing people sometimes ask, what's the one thing? Please call me, call us, let us know. Give us the opportunity to help you. And not us as in the Haven, not us as in you and I, us as in anybody. Call. Because if we don't know, we can't help. So, I mean, my number is area code 512-620-4038. Again, this is, my email address is jschrey, SCHREY, at havenhealthmgmt.com. But that's a lot to remember. Just call me. That's it. And we will get you, I know the VA system left, front to back, left to right, upside down. We'll get you to the VA. Whether we can help you or the VA can help you, we'll see.
Or another connection you have with the nonprofit that might be able to help you.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing about this podcast, is just connecting. I think we all need to connect.
Yep. And
there's a lot of clusters out there that are connected. But the goal of this podcast is to get everybody together. And I know it's kind of overwhelming, but it's a big ask of this. But every little bit helps.
I say this to the VA. We just want to be. We don't want veterans to fall through the cracks, like you said. Like, I don't care how big the cluster is. If there's still a crack, there's a possibility the veteran falls through that. And I agree with you 100%. If everyone's on board, there can be no cracks, and we can be that glue, as I said, to fill in those cracks. So 100%, we will get you to somebody that can help you.
Right. You're an inspiration, man.
I appreciate that.
You're an inspiration, and unfortunately, not everybody can fight the battles you fought.
Right.
And firsthand. And you're a good man. I can tell you that. You're a good man. I know we just met.
Right.
We had like 2-3-minute phone calls.
It was good. They were good.
But your energy's good, man. You got good energy. You got a good attitude. You're positive. And
I hope we stay in touch.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's kind of a lock now.
Damn right.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, I'm just going to do my outro, and then we'll just kind of wrap this up.
Thanks.
So
I appreciate it, man.
Well, there's an update. After the interview, John and I were talking, and he wanted me to let you know that he eventually did get back together with his beautiful wife and his beautiful daughter. So that's a happy ending. John is truly an inspiration. And as usual, I would like to thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest in the podcast. You are the engine that runs this machine. And if you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, you can email me at vetsconnectpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a nonprofit that thinks you might want to come on and do an episode, email me at vetsconnectpodcast@gmail.com. I release an episode every Monday. And as I always say, we built a bridge today, and you'll hear me on Monday.
The Vets Connect podcast is produced by Scott McLean at the KOFB studio in Boca Raton, Florida. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at vetsconnectpodcast@gmail.com.